Do we expect Maureen?
She didn't say she wasn't coming.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
I wonder if the framing is good here. Like a portrait. Maybe move out like this. I don't know.
She declined becoming a panelist again.
Oh, she's was indisposed. She'll be right back. So she'll give her a second.
Okay. We can just hang out for a minute then, see if Maureen joins us, and then when she
Yeah.
gets here, we can get started. Hopefully this one shouldn't take
Oh,
very
and she's
long.
requesting that you send the invite again.
Oh, now?
Yeah.
Just did it. There we go. Yeah.
All right.
Hi, sorry.
Well,
No
hello,
problem.
stranger. How are you?
Hello. I didn't realize what time it was and had a minute.
You're fine.
Is Maureen joining us? Does anybody know?
Um, I haven't heard from her one way or another.
All right.
Uh,
Then we're just gonna start.
okay.
All right. So I'll call the meeting to order at what time is it? 4:33. That's my alarm that says the meeting is going on. All right. So 4:33 we started. This is the policy committee meeting of the Madison Public Schools Board of Ed. We're going to start with the first 5 policies to rescind in the 6,000 series. The 6,000 series is the instruction series. And so the first policy that we're looking at is policy 6080, educating students in the core educational program. You have the notes from Shipman and Goodwin. It says this is not a mandatory policy. And they recommend repeal. The policy references the vision for school improvement. And this is an outdated model because no one can find the vision for school improvement. So they recommend rescission. Also, it addresses topics that are covered by statute, including core educational content, teacher professional development requirements, and the concept of least restrictive environment, which is mandated by IDEA. So if there's any comments or questions, we should recommend to repeal this.
I move that we repeal it.
I second and vote yes.
Um,
Okay. The next policy is Seth. I know I see his phone. Is he like listening
I think
in?
he's listening in.
Okay, that's fine.
For these policies, do you want to waive the second reading?
Yes, excellent idea. So for all the rescissions, we'll recommend to waive the second reading.
Great, thank
That's
you.
okay with
Yeah.
Alan. Okay. So hi, Seth.
that's it.
All
Hi,
right. So
hi, I'm here. I'm just in the car, so thank you.
okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure everything was kosher.
Don't
Okay.
be shy about
Yeah.
speaking up, Seth.
Is
I
Seth
never
ever
am.
ever sure? All right. But you'll have to like try to follow along because when we get to the review policies, I'm gonna mix it up. So anyway, okay. So the second policy that we're looking at for rescission and recommending waive the second read is 6080.13, teaching about religion. Shipman and Goodwin said the policy is not mandatory. They recommend repealing it. The district has to comply with constitutional obligations and prohibitions with respect to religion, and these are ever evolving through case law, and therefore to maintain flexibility, we should not have policy, we just follow the law. So any questions or comments, Galen, regarding this policy?
No, my only comment is I thought it was interesting that case law is evolving, but other than
Yeah,
that,
me too. I mean, thought it was pretty much a constitutional thing, but I guess we'll see. Okay, so we recommend to waive the second read and move for rescission to the board.
yes. And my other comment would be this obviously gives the district more flexibility and it's less
Right.
restrictive.
And also,
So-
we won't have to keep updating the policy every 2 months
Right.
while they're in session.
Right.
Seth, did you have anything to say? I thought he lit up. No, that was you, Galen. Okay. So the next policy then is 6080.20.1, remedial instruction. They say the policy is not mandatory. They recommend repeal because this is mandated by several laws. Pretty straightforward.
Agreed. Should we motion and vote on these as a bundle, or should we do each one individually?
Probably as a bundle. We usually just put them under one
Okay,
action item.
Great.
Because we're going to waive the second read do the motion to waive the second read for all of them and rescind them at the same time. So the next policy then is 6080.22, homebound/hospital instruction. This policy is not mandatory, may be repealed. The policy generally reflects the state regulatory requirements. And if we do want to retain it, they recommend legal review, especially to remove and revise language concerning maternity and expulsion. Didn't we just do one, Zoe, that had to do with maternity and all that stuff? Do you remember? It just
FMLA, which may be what you're actually going to see
Yeah,
later.
okay.
Sticking out in your head.
Yeah.
So it appears in a variety. It appears in student discipline. It appears in student attendance, chronic absenteeism, truancy.
Okay.
And that one.
That's what I thought. I'm like, I've seen this again and again and again. I think there's a lot of crossover in policies.
Yeah. I do have a question. So the last thing I want to do is create more work for Zoe. But for all of these rescissions, is there any way to link or index to current state law? In other words, if this were to come up in the district, right? Is it easy for us to point to state law to cover it? So this is more a question about institutional memory and efficiency than about any given policy.
If you want, I know that you can, on our website, there's a search box and you can search any keyword and it'll show you where it comes up in any of the policies. And then if that keyword comes up in a policy, at the end of that policy is always every single state statute that it refers to referred in the.
Right. But it was taken out of the policies, right? Let's just say for the sake of argument, there's nothing about homebound/hospital instruction in our policy because we've removed it. But if a parent or somebody has a question about it.
But there actually is. It is mentioned in other policies.
Is it? Okay.
Right, Zoe? That's what we were just talking about. It's like there's a crossover between
Sure. And at least in the case of homebound and hospital instruction, you see it talks about state regulatory requirements. That's because a lot of this is actually going to be governed through the PPT process. Because you're going to convene that committee to discuss these sorts of things. So there's already those steps and structures in place. I understand certainly what you're saying about wanting to know which laws it's referring to. The problem is, and I think the reason they say refers to several state laws is they're always adding ones. They're changing the citation. It moves a lot.
Right. Okay. As long as we have a relatively quick and easy way to search and find these things. Maybe it's AI. Maybe you just say.
Well, I mean, honestly, if I've looked up something, I just Google, CT statute, Department of Ed, whatever, and you find the website like that, it comes right up, and then you go through a million.
Just the Connecticut General Statutes, the 10-220, or whichever one is exactly for the Board of Education. That'll give you everything that's current.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's like we don't want to keep outdated, obsolete, or contradictory, redundant, whatever policies in the books, as long as we don't lose institutional memory or reinvent the wheel, 5 years down the road. That's my only general concern.
Yeah, and I have to keep a record of every policy we rescind, so I have reams of them. So we do keep all that if we have to refer back for a reason.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Can I just add, as a practical matter, I mean, we're making a conscious determination to clean up our policies and to remove extraneous policies, ones that we don't really need to keep because there's already other law governing. And that's one of the main reasons why we rescind policies, is that Shipman and Goodwin recommends that we rescind them because we don't need to have a policy because there's already a statute in place for that. So it'll actually be easier on the whole to go through our policies and find relevant policies where the board retains a policy, because that you won't have to go through a morass of extraneous policies. But then when our policies are silent on something, and maybe it does make sense to you know, to put this in a little explanatory paragraph at the top of the policies or something on the online service to let people know that where we don't have a policy, quite often it's because there's already statute governing, and then they can be directed to the statutes.
Do we have anything like that currently, Zoe?
A link that shows where the Connecticut general statutes are?
No, I mean, just that, like Seth just said, like if there's something that they're looking for and they don't see it in our policy, it may be covered by Connecticut general statute and to look there. I don't think so.
Just a paragraph that might say that or something.
No, that we don't, because that's not, they're looking for something in particular. What they may be looking for may not be a policy or a law.
Sure.
That they could be looking for something that's covered, that falls under the special education department and falls through CT SEDS and the PPT process or a 504 or something like that. So we don't have something general like that.
I mean, I think most people know how to use Google.
And most people, when they go looking, you know, they know how to come find us or call us, and we'll direct them in the right location and with that.
One more question. So do you have all the deleted, rescinded policies like in an electronic form or just in paper form?
Both.
Good, thank you. Because nobody wants to wade through all that paper. Okay, thanks.
So where we were required to keep them on hard copy for years, they're updating the records retention laws as we're moving along, so I can scan some of those in, but for the most part, no. When we rescind something, I have a folder per different series that just has every rescinded policy and all the versions of it put into it. So I keep them.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so then the last policy that we're looking at for rescission is 6080.29.3, career and vocational education. Oh, quick aside. So were we all okay with rescinding the 6080.22 and waiving the second reading?
Yes, until I drove us into the ditch. Yeah.
Okay. So 6080.29.3, career and vocational education. This is a very short policy, and the notes. My note says they recommend repealing it because it's not necessary and likely outdated. I didn't know, I was going to ask Dr. Cook, but I mean, we obviously help promote career and vocational education. It's like sort of built into our curriculum. We have career fairs. So I don't, you know, I don't think this policy is necessary, but I don't know if we need to have some sort of statement somewhere else, or did you talk to Dr. Cook about this at all, or did he have any comments when he looked at the policy?
He didn't, and this is one where it is outdated in terms of what career and vocational education is.
Right.
Actually, this is the first, and we'll see a series of these come out of the 6000s actually, where it's just describing what a subject matter is, which isn't necessarily important to have in a policy and doesn't really match what is the current definition. But no, we don't necessarily have something on the website per se, but I know it's something that's promoted through the high school program of studies. It's something that is promoted through the college and career department. It's certainly, it's very present in the building itself, and all the opportunities that go along with that are very readily available to the students and parents, guardians, if they're interested in looking into it.
So I know it's readily available in the buildings and sort of built into our curriculum and our high school, but is there anything like on a web presence, something about this anywhere that you know of? I mean, I'm good with rescinding it because it's not really a policy. It's like a nothing. It's a
cheerleading statement, which, to be fair, you know, should be promoted. Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, absolutely we should promote, you know, vocational education. I mean, the way we're heading now, we're not going to have anybody doing those trade crafts. So, however, I don't think that we need a policy for it, but I just didn't want to, I didn't know if anybody had any comments on it regarding, you know, how it's advertised, or if there's a presence on our website, or usually Seth weighs in by now and he hasn't said anything.
I'm trying to look very quickly.
If you're looking for input, a lot of that is done through our CTE department and also our guidance department.
Right.
And I know in recent years, our board has done a lot of work to support the addition of a whole counselor for who's devoted to career, like non-college career technical counseling. And she has developed programs that with local businesses where, you know, they bring our kids in for internships or, you know, like even with the building of the new school, Neck River School, our Gil Bain, the general contractor, invited a bunch of career tech ed students in to tour the facility, and then they're going to have another tour for kids who are interested in architecture and engineering and that sort of thing. So there were trades, architecture and engineering. So I know we do a lot in that regard, and it is directly marketed to the students and the parents. So
Okay.
I don't think we necessarily need to have a policy or have any statement anywhere.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could sum it up by saying career and vocational education has essentially been taken over by career and technical education, which has its
Yeah.
full-on department within the high school. So it's
Right.
well represented.
So,
Yeah.
Diane, you
Yes.
shouldn't summon the genie with the bottle. It's like, you just conjured up Seth. Okay.
All right,
the
goodbye,
bottle,
Seth.
So much for your 3 wishes.
There we go.
All right, so all 5 of these 6,000 series policies, we've agreed to waive the second read and move to the board for rescission. So now we're going to talk about the policies for review. And what we're going to do is we're going to not go in order. We're going to actually take the first one, policy 1370, non-discrimination, and we're going to look at it and its regulation at the same time that we look at 4118.1 non-discrimination and its regulation, as well as 5020.1 non-discrimination, because the let me grab my thing. These are all the whole point of this revision is to, if you read Shipman and Goodwin's notes for all of 3 of these policies as well as their regulations, was to update the appeal procedures to ensure consistency across all model policies related to discrimination and harassment. This is done in part because the 2024 Title IX final rule described below requires that boards of ed provide an appeal process in its Title IX policy that is at a minimum the same as it offers in comparable proceedings. Therefore, they've updated their model policies related to discrimination and harassment to ensure the appeal procedures are comparable across all policies. Then they clarified the type of conduct prohibited by the policy, including epithets related to sex, sexual orientation, and/or gender identity or expression. And then they make technical edits. And you'll find those same notes, not just for 1370 non-discrimination, which is the community series, but the 4118.1 non-discrimination, which is the personnel series, and then the 5020.1 non-discrimination policy, which is in the student series. So if you actually, and I don't know if you did this, but if you compare them side by side, you will see that all of the edits are almost identical. And that was, of course, the whole point of the revision. To make them all comparable as required by state statute and law, and to make sure that everything is pretty much the same. There are, you know, some minor differences between the policies because one is pertaining more to students, one is more to personnel, and one is to community. And the differences, if you looked at it and noticed, because I did them side by side so I could see, like all of the revisions are like nearly verbatim changes. And the only like minor differences would be like who you report to, or, you know, the hierarchy, etc. So I'm not going to go into the specific changes because it's marked in your policy, and they are all the same. So we are not going to be voting on the regulations, but the regulations have the same changes with the same sort of definitions and description of what is not allowed. So are there any comments or questions regarding these 3 policies and their associated regulations for non-discrimination?
No comment.
Did you like how I bundled it?
I couldn't decide if I wanted to bundle, if I wanted to go in numeric order, and I guess my OCD said numeric order on the day I put the packet together. So
Yeah.
okay, we're changing it now.
It's, you know, toss up, right?
Yeah. But again, yeah, these are the policies we see every single year. They're all changes that come from, you know, in this case, certainly the federal government with the updates with Title IX and the final rule. Changes are they're not significant. There's not huge changes. There's some years you see these policies come through and it's an absolute destruction of it. So yeah, we'll see him again next year.
I'm sure. And if you hear any funny noises, my dog is dreaming, so I apologize. I could wake her up, but she's better off sleeping. All right, so I was fine with the changes that Shipman and Goodwin made. And so I am good with all three of those policies for non-discrimination to rescind and replace with the updated policies. Did you want to comment on anything else, Galen or Seth?
No, I agree with you.
Okay. Those will be a two read though, because they're like lengthy. Yeah. All right. So then now we're going to look at the other two that go together, which would be 4118.14, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, and the 5200 policy, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. The 4000 series is the personnel series and the 5000 series is the student series. These also have associated regulations. So again, if you look at them side by side, they mostly have the same edits. I think there was only one question that I had, and it was just a minor thing. I believe, hold on, I'm looking for my notes. So Shipman and Goodwin said regarding these two policies for 4118.14, we have revised this policy to update the appeal procedures to ensure consistency across all model policies related to discrimination and harassment. This is done in part because the 2024 Title IX final rule requires that a Board of Ed provide an appeal process in its Title IX policy that is at a minimum the same as it offers in comparable proceedings. Therefore, we have updated our model policies related to discrimination and harassment to ensure the appeal procedures are comparable across all policies. Further, we've made technical edits throughout. And that is the same thing that they said for the 5200 student section of the same policy regarding the Americans with Disabilities Act. The regulations also were updated. So, here it is. So the only thing that I would say was I was looking at the regulation for 5200, and this is more of a Zoe thing, and the regulation for the 4118.14, and in the regulation for, hold on, the regulation under the Personnel 4000 series,
Okay.
on line 51, it says submit a written complaint to section 504/ADA coordinator. But in the regulation for students, it says the same thing, but says see contact information below. And so I didn't know because I know the contact information is obviously there at the end of the policy, and I didn't know if it should also say see contact information below. And that was the only thing that I saw that was any different really between the policies. They're updated the same.
Sure. What line does it say it in the 5000s reg?
Line 58 to 59. And it's not actually below, it's at the end of the policy. But I just thought, if somebody was looking for the contact information when reading the policy, the one directs you to look at. And so I didn't know if the 4000 series regulation should also direct them to look for the contact information. Other than that, again, the changes are the same, and it was meant to be in order to make sure that they are consistent with each other, both the policy and the regulation. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding the policy or the regulation for 4118.14 or 5200 about disabilities?
I'll add that language to the policy, to the reg in the 1000s.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, so then if we're good with those, we'll recommend those to be rescinded and replaced to the board with two reads. And that just leaves us with the last policy, which is 4030.5, family and medical leave. We literally did this a year ago. We updated it on 10/17/23. And if I can find my notes, here they are. Shipman and Goodwin's notes say regarding this policy, we have revised this policy in light of Section 18 of Public Act number 24-41, which requires effective October 1st, 2024, that boards of ed provide benefits equal to those provided by the federal FMLA to non-certified employees, not just paraeducators in an educational setting as under current law, who have been employed by the board for at least 12 months and worked at least 950 rather than 1250 hours for such board in the previous 12 months. We've also made edits to clarify that an employee's available accrued sick leave will run concurrently with unpaid FMLA leave and other minor technical edits. So this is for rescind and replace. These are mandated changes. It's pretty straightforward. I would still recommend a 2-read just because it's verbose. Are there any questions or comments regarding 4030.5, family and medical leave?
No.
Very straightforward. So we'll recommend rescind and replace for that one. And we're done. That's it. Is there any public comment or any board comments? Or anybody want to say anything?
Nope, sorry, I know this was a kind of a dull selection of policies, but they're the ones you just have to get done each year. So I appreciate everybody meeting on an off day just so we can get these in the queue and get them rolling through and updated as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Well, I like how they give us 2 months to get it done when they pass it.
I'm sitting there going, okay. So
Yeah.
now they're done, we'll put them through the board. We will be all compliant. And this will bring up all the policies too that were impacted by the changes to Title IX. So we will be good across the board in that regard.
Great.
No,
Until they
thank you.
change it again.
Yeah, but it's important to be current and compliant. So thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
Good meeting. Thank you.
All right. What was I going to say? There was just one last thing. Oh, no, I don't remember. Nothing important. All right. So 4:58, we're done.
Nice.
Thank you, everyone.
Excellent. Great to see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.